Welcome to Starting Line, a look at select bills introduced during the 90th legislative session. Over the past year or so, the debate on immigration in the United States has reached new heights. This week on Starting Line, we chat with Representative Frank Hornstein to learn more about a bill he sponsors that would restrict state and local officials from cooperating with federal immigration enforcement efforts. Representative Hornstein explained for us what House File 3149 would do and why he is proposing this legislation.
There's a lot of issues related to immigration and how we treat our aspiring citizens that live among us in our communities, urban and rural and suburban. And so when we had these very challenging issues come down from Washington, D.C. around deportations and really cracking down on various groups of aspiring citizens, I felt that the state should not really be using resources to, unauthorized by any of us, to be aiding in this process. And I also did a resolution here at the state level to push Congress along on how we deal with these questions. We have 800,000 dreamers in the country now that are here. They came across the border. They don't have citizenship, but they came because their parents were here, and they're known as dreamers. And they are contributing to our country. They are wonderful students. They are working, many of them in their teens and 20s. And I think there's bipartisan support for them, but nothing has happened yet in Washington, D.C. that will say to these dreamers, you can stay in this country. We are not going to deport you. We value you. You contribute. And so I did a resolution to say, and it of course has to go through the committee process. This has not been approved by the legislature, but it is a resolution that would say that the state legislature encourages, requests our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. to take action to protect these dreamers. So these are two issues that I've been involved with and interested in.
And have you talked with folks that are interested in this issue, and
Yes.
What are kind of...
Very much, and thank you for that question. There's a lot of fear, a lot of concern in our immigrant communities and our aspiring citizens, because they fear for their future here in this country. There's a lot of fear about kids being separated from parents. We're seeing that a lot. And for the dreamers, for example, they don't know now what their future holds. This is the only country they know. I have a job outside of the legislature, when we're not meeting in higher education. And one of the students I work with is a dreamer herself, and came to this country when she was 7 years old. By herself, and has a very harrowing story about crossing the border, and then was reunited with her mother. This is someone who's incredible. Graduated with honors from one of our local colleges. A wonderful person, and she's now uncertain about her future. And so that fear is really gripping the community.
In what ways would state officials be prohibited from working with?
Well, I mean, I think that, for example, we have a lot of local law enforcement, and it's very, very important that we maintain our ability in Minneapolis to show some discretion, so show some local control. We have now, if let's say there's criminal activity going on, and we need to be involved with our immigrant communities in terms of trying to track down who's done what, people will not want to come forward as witnesses because they're worried about being asked their immigration status. They're worried about local law enforcement, communicating with ICE and other authorities. And fortunately, in Minneapolis, our officers are not asking those questions. They're simply working with these communities as best they can to protect all of us, to increase public safety. We're a safer community because we have we are a sanctuary city, so we are a safer community for that purpose. And so again, that's another example of, I think at the federal level, there's now you're seeing an attack on sanctuary cities. I think Illinois now has become, I think, a sanctuary state. So so these are the types of policies that we need to push back on I think some very, very hurtful and harmful policies that just send a message to many, many kinds of immigrant communities and aspiring citizens that they're not welcome here. And the United States has always been a welcoming country. My parents were immigrants. They were refugees. They came to this country after World War II, after surviving the Nazi Holocaust. And they came to this country in 1952 with nothing except their education. Stories of many, many immigrants, Irish, German, you name it. People that came to this country seeking a better life, and fleeing difficult conditions in their home countries. And so this is what our country was built on. And we need to send a message to these communities that we are working with them and not against them.
Your bill's been referred to the Public Safety Committee. Any idea if it will get a hearing?
It's unlikely it'll get a hearing, and I wish it would. But sometimes we introduce these bills just to put out what our values are, what our vision is, and that we are addressing these issues at the legislature because they need to be addressed here in a state forum. I think they need to be addressed also at the city council and the county board and as well as at the federal level. This is a critical issue for our state and nation right now. And how we address it, I think, will say a lot about who we are as a people, what our values are, and remembering our heritage, as all of us can trace back our history. We're all immigrants, and many, of course, we have people who are native to this area, indigenous to this area, and of course we need to be doing a lot more to ensure that treaty rights and their rights are understood and respected. But outside of that community, we all came from a different place.
Representative Hornstein's bill has been referred to the House Public Safety and Security Policy and Finance Committee, where it awaits a hearing. We have crossed the 4,000 mark for bills introduced in the 90th legislative session. And if you'd like more information on any of them, you can visit the House website, www.house.mn. Thanks for watching The Starting Line. We'll see you next time.